Welcome back to another podcast. I am here with the man, the myth, the legend, Kyle Roof.
Thanks for having me. Happy to be here.
I've decided to have you on because there's a lot of things that you're not known for, but you're actually mainly known for, like the Lorem Ipsum stuff. And I wanted to deep dive into the other stuff that you're doing as well, and also we'll do a little bit of on-page SEO because that's your forte, right?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Right. Okay. Where shall we start? Because you've obviously sold the SEO agency, you have got IMG, and you also have a SaaS as well. So I'll let you decide which one you want to go down first.
Well, the sale was a strategic merger.
Right.
I
Okay.
did. I'm on the board of directors, and I'm still involved in like strategy meetings and stuff like that from time to time.
Mhm.
But I'm not involved in the day to day of running the company. But happy to start there.
Right. Okay. So let's start with the SEO agency side of stuff. How many staff did you have?
I think we have around 30, give or take,
Right.
not
And
counting not counting content writers.
right.
They don't count.
And yeah, true. And then, have you still got 30, or was 30 the amount of staff that you had when you saw, or when you done the merger?
Yeah, that's right about where we were. And then the company that we merged with, I think they've got a similar amount on their side as well.
Right. Okay. So you basically doubled the size and stuff.
That's right.
So why did you set up the SEO agency?
Cash money. I think I had taken it as far as that my energy could go, and I think
Mhm.
my business partner Andy also felt the same. We put everything into that for about 8 years, and
Right.
it was an excellent ride, and I enjoy doing it. I think I'm good at agency SEO, but well, it's interesting. You mentioned the other two companies, IMG courses, and then also the SaaS tool Pop.
Mhm.
Being able, what we ended up doing is as we were able to pull back from the agency. Andy is really the CEO of IMG, and I'm the CEO of Page Optimizer Pro, and we just about doubled our revenue in a year. And you can really see the difference of when you're really laser focused in on one particular company rather than kind of spread between three. And the agency obviously takes a lot of time,
Yeah. Yeah.
energy, and
Definitely.
resources. But you can
And
really see the difference it makes when you really focus on one thing.
yeah, I feel like you have a very similar approach when it comes to business as Gary. Because I asked the exact same question to Gary. I said, "Well, why didn't you like keep the link building agency, but also do the property side of this stuff as well?" And he said the
Sure.
exact same thing. Like he's been able to grow his property side of stuff from two members of staff. Now he's got like 20, and that was all
Oh,
after he
wow.
essentially sold. So yeah, that's really good to see. And then what was the feeling like when you actually sold the agency?
You don't decide to sell and then it happens the next day. It took about 9 months
Mm.
to get through, and I had already kind of processed the sale in my mind uh, before it was done. So like things didn't really feel any different. It was interesting because there's obviously a period of time where you're staying on, and so you get paid or whatever, but you're still kind of doing your same job for a while without
Yeah,
getting paid.
yeah,
But the interesting thing, and I should also note how you can sell an agency is you really have to remove yourself from the sales process. You aren't selling the clients, you aren't landing them. And then you have to remove yourself from the service side. They're not talking to you day to day. And that was a multi year process for that even to happen. And so getting to that point, I was really only talking to, account managers, senior account managers, the leadership team. And so after the sale, just that communication got less and less and less. But that wasn't overly stressful.
hmm
It was nice to get to that point, and then it just your stress level starts to go down. I would say though, like we did, our contingency plan was if the sale didn't go through, we were probably just going to hire a CEO and kind of step back that way, or and then look for another opportunity to sell. But that
yeah.
was certainly a contingency plan, but it made more sense to get out of it in the day-to-day operations and focus on other
I think
things.
that's super important for anyone that's looking to sell, really, because a lot of people think, oh, I can sell this agency or PPC agency or whatever I've got. But in reality, that person that owns the actual agency is so dedicated, whether it's doing the sales, the funnels, or actually the client management work. It needs to essentially be self-sufficient for it to essentially run. We like, I don't know if you've ever heard of this, but it needs to run. It needs to pass the bus test. So if I got run over by a bus tomorrow,
Exactly.
will that company earn money? And a lot of times it's no for a lot of people. But if it is yes, you will get a better multiplier.
Well, yeah, because if you're a key player, there's a discount that happens on the sale because they have to pay to replace you. And so the
Exactly.
more you are involved in that, then the more of a discount there is and the less money you're going to make. Another way that I like to think of the bus on getting hit by the bus is can you step away from your company for 3 months or 6 months and will it not only maintain, but will it grow?
Mm.
And that's also a way to kind of think about it. Like if I said, hey guys, I have to step away for 2 months and I'm not going to be answering any emails, can it go on? And if it can, then you definitely have something that can be sold. If it would fold immediately, then you're not there yet.
Yeah, definitely. So then the SaaS side of stuff, the
Page Optimizer Pro.
Page Optimizer Pro. There we go. It obviously does a lot of the on-page SEO side of stuff, but what made you actually go into SaaS? Because not a lot of people want to get into SaaS, but then they don't either have the developers in place or they feel like it's just way over their head. What was the thought process of that?
Well, we solved a problem that we had. We were doing on-page SEO in the agency, and we had figured out a way to do it that was effective, and we were doing it by hand, and that really we can't scale that. And so, needing to create a tool for ourselves to solve our problem is really what it was. And then we got to the point where we were able to peel it off, and it became its own company, its own entity. The thing that I would encourage people is solve your problem. And then if you're solving your problem, you're using it. So it's self-funding in that way. That you should be saving money. Like instead of using another tool, you're using your tool. So you should be saving money there. And then ideally it's more effective than the tool that you left or the tools that you combined or those concepts. And so then you're doing better output. The other thing that was really big for us too is we gave it away for free for like 7 or 8 months, where we kind of had it on the back end of the agency where you just kind of put in your email and a keyword and we'd email you a report. And then it got to the point then that was kind of crashing the back end of the site. So then we had to move it into a cloud type thing, and it was still free for quite some time. And then we got to the point where our server bill was kind of expensive, and we reached out to the people that were using. We're like, hey, we need to charge $1 a report just to kind of cover our costs here and see how this is going to go. And in that first month, I might have told you this before, but we made $2,600. And that means we ran 2,600 reports. And that blew my mind that there are that many people using it and all that. But in that time where we were giving it away, we were able to beta test a lot of things. We got a lot of great feedback from people. When you're only running a tool, like if you build a tool for yourself, you're going to run it in certain scenarios and it's going to run very, very smoothly. But the internet is huge, and you don't anticipate poorly formed sites or badly or misformed, like miscoded sites or different use cases and stuff like that. And so through that time period, where we basically had people beta testing for us, and obviously as it was free, they were quite lenient and graceful with how it worked. And then once we got to the point where we had to charge, nobody really had a problem with that because like, hey, I've been using this for free for so long. And you create brand ambassadors. You create people that are happy to do your marketing for you because they've gotten such value out of it. So it proved the concept. It got people in. It beta tested. We were able to iterate features that were needed to then take it past, I think, an MVP situation and actually something that could go to market. And that was all done during that time. But that's expensive. We had the agency, so the agency could support that. And as I mentioned, we were able to not use other tools as a result of building this tool. And we were able to do better output. So we were increasing the value for our clients and increasing our revenue there. So I think if you can kind of get that kind of a combination where you're solving your problem, making it better for you, you can get people in and it's not overly expensive to have them use it, and you can kind of organically grow it that way. That's, I think, a pretty decent approach. That's not the unicorn though. It's not like you launch tomorrow and the next thing you know you're making 100,000 a month. That takes a few years to
Yeah,
get there.
yeah, definitely. Do you know what's really interesting about Pop? I probably used Pop around the first time you spoke at Chiang Mai, which would have been 2018, 2019.
2019.
And if I'm being honest with you, I didn't think it was that great. I thought it was overloaded with information, and then I probably didn't use it for like maybe a year or two. Actually, it would have been last year when I met you at Chiang Mai, and then obviously I was like, do you know what? I'm gonna start using this a little bit more, and it was so much better, like levels better.
Each iteration of the tool, because we built it internally, and I don't really have any issue looking at spreadsheets, and it is spreadsheety,
Yeah,
and I know that's not for everyone for sure. So each iteration of the tool is try to make it more accessible for people of all levels of SEO, whether you really are happy to live in the weeds, or if you just kind of like, just tell me what to do, sort of a situation, and make it as user friendly. And people still complain it's clunky, and I don't disagree. But each time we update the tool, the focus is on making it easier to use. A problem that we have in SEO, though, SEO is so deceptive in that it seems simple, right? Just put
yeah,
your keywords here, here, and here. But there's a lot more to it than that. And then you have to think about different scenarios, like when would you do this or that, and trying to convey that in a way that is attainable for all levels of SEO is a difficult proposition. And it sounds so easy at first, like, oh, we'll just do this. But then, like, well, what about this? What about that? What if someone does this? What if someone does that? And then
yeah.
that's where there lots of levels of complexity come in.
Yeah, and then not only that as well, you have all these different strategies. So, like for example, an e-commerce SEO strategy is different to an affiliate strategy, which is different to like a local business strategy as well. So, from a SaaS point of view, trying to essentially tap into every single market, I can just imagine being like an absolute headache at times.
Yeah, and so what we try to do there is we do have like kind of the base mode. We call it Pop
Mhm.
Pro, and that's going to handle most situations. But then for someone that knows about their specific situation, then we know that we need our accounts adjusted, or our terms ranges adjusted in a particular way. We actually allow that kind of granular output where you can say like, hey, I need to be aggressive, and I need this, and I need to focus on these types of competitors. We do allow that to happen, but again, that gets people in the weeds because some people try to get into that side of it, and maybe it's not exactly where they should be, and they won't maybe understand the reason the tool gives the recommendations it gives.
Yeah, definitely. So then, you don't need to answer this. Are you looking to potentially sell um, Page Optimizer Pro? You don't need to answer.
You should be building every business to sell.
Right. Okay.
That should be in your mind. Even if you're not going to sell, you should be running it in a way that it could be sold.
Right. Okay.
And there's a lot that goes into that. A main part of it is that you're running it as an actual business. And
Yeah.
your books
Definitely.
actually are correct. And
Yeah.
you know how much things cost, and like what your customer acquisition cost is, and stuff like that. And but absolutely, I mean, I don't. This isn't my forever job.
Hmm.
I can tell you that it's been the most fun project I've ever worked on, and I enjoy it from kind of solving the SEO problem side of things as well as solving the business side of things as well.
Yeah.
Because a SaaS is a different animal than an agency, and you have different marketing techniques you need to do, and different approaches and different pricing, and you're worried about churn in different ways and stuff like that. So there's so much that goes into it. It's been a blast, but the short answer is yes, absolutely. I will happily sell
Yeah.
pop.
That's good. I can see like obviously you do like a lot of the lives on the Facebook group, and I can see that you are enjoying like answering the questions, and sometimes people will drop like a comment in the actual lives and stuff like that, and you're like, oh, yeah, we don't actually have that feature. Let me get that to the developer, and then like in a month's
Yeah.
time it will be added on. So yeah, I can definitely see you actually enjoying it and stuff. Um, So then IMG, what was the thought process behind setting that up?
Well, there initially IMG was kind of testing focused. It was it was really just a testing group. The idea is that we run tests on Google's algorithm. This is a community where you can come in and you can participate. You can chat about SEO here. And while that is interesting, what we found is that it's not enough to keep people in. You'll get some hardcore people that'll never leave, and that's pretty cool. But a lot of people at the end of the day, while they want to know what's going on in Google or some latest test, they really want to learn how to do SEO, or they want to learn a technique, or they want to learn what's the latest, link building techniques, kind of thing. And your courses, for those who don't know, Kazra has a course in IMG, and it's actually one of the more popular ones on link building. But so what we, you should. But what we realized is that people, at the end of the day, they need to learn. And so what we found is like the testing definitely adds a layer of credibility. We are looking at things, and then you can kind of you can build a framework and almost like a BS meter, where you can say like, yeah, this is probably true because I've seen tests that can validate that, or this might not be true because of also, and then you can kind of take that framework and then you can look at the courses and the techniques are in there. You can probably add them as you need or how you're doing your SEO, but the tests kind of give that validity. And then at the end of the day, you can really learn SEO. And so that's kind of how IMG has kind of morphed over the years, and we now really present ourselves as a courses platform where you can learn SEO at the same time. If you are interested in testing Google's algorithm, that's there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And this takes us into a nice segue, because obviously you've been talking about testing and stuff, about the Lorem Ipsum content side of stuff. It wouldn't be a Kyle Roof podcast if we didn't talk about the Lorem Ipsum.
That's okay. I'm happy to talk about that all day.
So for anybody that doesn't know who Kyle Roof is, I'm sure a lot of you guys will know, is you essentially got your name out there because you ranked a page for a fairly competitive keyword to do with Lorem Ipsum. Let me know if that's a good explanation, or if you can essentially explain it a little bit better. Yeah?
Yeah, that's just fine. That's just fine.
So that was when I first heard of you, and I was like, damn, that's pretty cool. You've ranked with just having keywords plastered on the page, but am I correct in saying the whole purpose of that test was to essentially showcase to everyone that Google is just looking at numbers and not actually keywords, and then it's just transition that into like a vector, and then it's like, right, okay, this is how this page essentially should rank.
That's 100% right.
Yeah.
People often assign human qualities to things that are extraordinary, and Google is beyond extraordinary. But they want to think that Google can read like a human reads, and Google sees like a human sees, and Google cares, And then I the thing is like I really believe that some people think they write a piece of content and they're like, I think Google will be a better person after reading this, and Google will thank me with higher rankings. But that's just unfortunately not how it works. At the end of the day, it's an algorithm, and you need to give the algorithm the math that it wants. Mm-hmm. And it's reading in math, and it's counting terms, in specific areas so that it can understand as well as an algorithm can understand. And the main bullet point of doing that was really to kind of make a point about the people who say all you need to do is write good content. No, you don't. Like, you need to write good content to convert. You need to write good content so people stay on the site. But to rank a page, good content has nothing to do with it. Yeah, and it's about satisfying what the algorithm is looking for.
Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Like when I first heard of it, I was like, "That's no way." And then obviously I saw the example, and I was like, "Okay, I do believe that." So yeah, what obviously you've got the Lorem Ipsum tattoo.
I do. Did you want to see it?
I mean, the audience might want to see it. Can we show the audience?
Yeah, let's see. There you go.
There we go. Lorem Ipsum tattoo. So then the next question, what a lot of people would ask is, when was the last time you were able to rank with Lorem Ipsum? Because the first time I heard about that was 2019. Or have you been able to replicate that?
Yeah, so that original fun times in the SERPs was in 2018, and then it was really impressive. Uh, the hate mail on that, like, oh, you got lucky, or all the different reasons that it wouldn't work again. So then in 2019, I think maybe when you saw it, I was doing a speaking circuit, and in each place that I spoke, I ranked a page on page one in Lorem Ipsum, and almost all of them were number one. All of them were on page one, but almost all of them were number one, which was pretty satisfying. Kind of going through all the reasons that it couldn't be done again, like you can't do this in a big city. You can't do this in the EU where they've got certain regulations. You can't do this in a small area where there are tons of SEOs on it, or you can't do this for whatever. So I did that one. And then fast forward, and again, I still get hate mail on it, or just detractors that are always like, well, you can't do it now because, there's been Medic and RankBrain and Bert and Mum and pick your whatever. And especially after helpful content. And some people that actually ran a lot of tests before said there was a Lorem Ipsum update in particular, that you couldn't rank anything in Lorem Ipsum because Google had figured it out. So Chiang Mai SEO, I was kind of, this was just 3 months ago. I kind of did a walkthrough memory lane on the test that got me to those ideas, on that Google can't read, not in the same way that a human reads, and Google can't see in the same way that you see, and it's not looking at a web page the same way you're looking at it. And I ran through those original tests, but then I showed that actually those weren't the original tests. I had just done them a couple weeks before, and all of those tests still work. It all still works. Yeah, it all still ranks. Kind of the big the meta concept there is that, yeah, there's a lot that changes in Google, but most of that is kind of on the fringes, and the core part of how the algorithm works really doesn't change. And kind of, if you can understand how that core part works, then as things do shift, you can often weather that storm better than others that are just trying to write the good content.
Yeah, that was a really good talk in Chiang Mai. I really actually enjoyed that. So then, obviously, you'd done your original tests back in 2018 and 2019, and then Google essentially penalized a load of your test websites.
Wow. Yeah, that was back in 2018. After I did the original one, then an article went up on a website that said, like, Google ranks site in Latin. And then they posted my name and the site, and they didn't bother reaching me for a comment. But 6 hours after that article went live, the site was taken down, or it was de-indexed. Pure spam, I think is the penalty, which is great. I would argue that it's not pure spam, to be honest with you, but that's neither here nor there. Then they also that night took down 20 of my test sites. The interesting thing on that one is that the penalty was major spam. So I guess there's a distinction. But those test sites had nothing to do with the site that was ranking. And I would really argue there's no spam there either, because those sites weren't taking up any space from anyone. They weren't, at all. But because they weren't related to the test site, and I don't think they were really bothering anybody, it was clearly punitive. That we're taking this down, we're also taking these down too. Which was great, because that only validated everything I was saying. If I was getting lucky or talking nonsense, they would have rolled their eyes and moved on. And then they wrote a rule for it too, by the way, that you can't have a web page that doesn't make sense to the reader but contains keywords. And that was a brand new rule written after all that, which again completely validates the whole process, that you can learn about the algorithm, you can gain insight, and you don't need to know the whole thing, and that nobody knows the whole thing. But if you can just pull back the curtain a little bit and get some insights, and you can apply those and start to get edges in your SEO.
Yeah, definitely. Like I've seen it on a much lower scale where there's these like mass directory websites that are. You look at the content, it's just pure spam. It's stuffed with keywords and tags and stuff, but it does ultimately rank. So again, this is a much smaller scale. It's nothing in comparison to what you were doing, but there is definitely something there where it's like if you have X, Y, and Z keyword on a page, and they're either LSIs or entities to do with if to do with your primary keyword, it ranks. So
Yeah.
there is definitely that scenario, and obviously, guys like yourself talk about it. Guys like Corey speak about it as well. So I feel like there are more and more people that lean towards the cowl roof party as opposed to the more white hat Google party, to say the least.
That's funny that you mentioned that. I am white hat. That's the best part of it is that I am completely white hat.
Yeah,
And people really conflate the idea of testing something or showing how something works with the idea that's black hat. And I find it's a weird concept that a lot of people have that I'm somehow a black hat SEO because I show how the algorithm works. I think that makes me the whitest hat SEO. I'm showing you actual truth, not some dirty technique on ranking because you don't. I mean, there's no point in trying to an affiliate site where you're selling something or a client site or some e-commerce site. There's no point in having a site completely in Lorem Ipsum because you won't convert. But if we can learn how the algorithm works, we can then apply that to those sites and stay within the guidelines. This is how the algorithm works, and we're doing this correctly. And because the techniques that I use they don't then translate into something dirty or nasty. They're so far within the guidelines, they don't even know where the guidelines are.
yeah,
They're like, it's not even in a gray space
mm,
whatsoever on these things. It's like, this is how, we need to put our terms in these areas and we can figure out what Google likes and we can do that completely within the guidelines. So it's funny that you mentioned black hat because I don't see it as black hat at all. And I've never done anything black
yeah,
hat. I have clients,
definitely.
I can't do black hat SEO for client sites.
So then let's talk a little bit more on the EAT and website recovery side of stuff, because I feel
Hmm.
like when it comes to EAT and website recovery, our SEO alignments and our SEO thoughts, both mine and yours, are very down a similar path. Because
Hmm.
again, there's some people that don't believe in EAT. There's some people that think when a website gets penalized, that's it completely dead. When it's not actually the case, every website can be recovered. EAT is definitely a thing. Now that being said, what's your fortes on the actual website recovery side of stuff?
So a big thing about the EAT concept is that at the end of the day, it comes down to, can Google trust this site? Should this site be in the SERPs in the first place? Is really what it comes down to. And what EAT, the concepts there is what you're trying to do is you're trying to show a bot that you're a real thing, that you actually exist. And a couple questions you want to answer there is like, who is responsible for this website and who is responsible for this content? And those things need to be as clear as you can make them for a website. Now, taking that one step farther, in the last 4 years more, Google has been very hostile to affiliate sites. And you can see the reason for that would be that a lot of affiliate sites try to hide who they are. They try to not take responsibility for their site or their content. And you can see why that's problematic. After the Medic updates, 2018, 2019, in that range, you can see a lot of sites shifted and did a much better job showing who they are. But then, like something like helpful content comes along, and the sites that seem to get buried again are affiliate sites and sites that are brands, that are companies, and e-commerce sites appear to do pretty well. By and large, they get through unscathed, and you can kind of see that's the progression from EAT is that they are selling an actual thing. They are a real thing. They're selling their own thing, or they're selling something. They're more of a brick and mortar, and I think that inherently makes them more trustworthy, for better or for worse. I'm not saying I agree with that, But I'm saying that you can see how that shift kind of comes in from, okay, these things establish that this is a real thing. But if you are an e-commerce site selling your own product, you're responsible for that. You are the end responsible person for that thing, versus if you're an affiliate site and somebody clicks and goes over and buys somewhere else, you're not responsible for that transaction. So while somebody trusted you for the sale, at the end of the day, you're not responsible for the product. And so I can see the shift in EAT. It's not a shift. It's just like, this is, I think, a natural progression towards Google favoring like an e-commerce site over an affiliate site, is because, again, it comes down to that level of trust. Can we trust them with these results? Because ultimately, if somebody uses the product, buys the product, has an issue with the product, they have a more direct path for help. And, that's where I can kind of see why some sites got hit, where there's other sites that are more almost like a brick and mortar site that's online, if you will, like an actual store, but it is online, would fare better. So when you're looking at like recovery, something that I would add into, again, just kind of getting that EAT stuff out there, is how can you make yourself real? And what's the ways that you can make yourself more real? And being responsible for a product is such a big one. I can see why that would be such a strong trust signal, and I would kind of add that into the EAT conversation as we kind of move into 2024.
Yeah. Well, so one question I get asked frequently is, let's say I'm an affiliate website owner and I've just been hit, and my website was talking about running shoes, and my best running shoes page got hit, and obviously I was linking out to the Nike running shoes, the Puma running shoes, etc., etc. Would you deem that page as a doorway page? Because one thing to bear in mind as well is Google has said in the past it doesn't like doorway pages. Now, again, take that with a grain of salt, because Google said it. But that ultimately is a page where somebody lands on that page, reads through your content, and then clicks through and goes to Amazon or whoever you're sending the traffic through to.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that now to think about it, so a doorway page is a page that wins a keyword, and then ultimately the transaction happens somewhere else, right? And it funnels you to another page. So maybe that's why all affiliate sites are getting wrecked, is because they're just falling under doorway page definition. I like that.
Yeah.
I'm on board.
So
you win the prize today, sir. You win the prize.
It's something that I've commonly gotten asked. Now, one thing that is important that I have seen a lot of websites do, affiliate websites, and again, it'd be interesting for you to come back. Obviously, you might not be able to do it now, but in 2 or 3 weeks' time, we'll obviously message and stuff. Is there's a lot of affiliate websites that have set up an e-commerce site, and they are essentially funneling the doorway page through to affiliate to their e-commerce product page, and then they're sending the traffic through that way. So again, it's something to definitely test out.
Wouldn't that be the same thing, though? I mean, that's the whole idea. Because I get this question asked a lot in local SEO. How about those pages that go after, plumber Dallas, plumber Houston, plumber whatever? Isn't that a doorway page? And the answer there, I think, is no, because you can convert on that page. You can call the local office, or you can hit the contact form, and you can reach that location. So even though those pages are extremely similar, they're not doorway pages, because you can convert on the page.
Yeah.
You get the information you need, and you can convert right there. How would you? Because if you're sending somebody to an e-commerce store, can't you just sell it? Wouldn't the way to get around that just be to put the product on the page right there? You can have a more fancier page, but wouldn't you need them to convert to buy on that page to get around being a doorway?
So I believe the whole thought process behind it, because I've seen a couple websites that have done it, and then they've essentially not been hit by the helpful content update. Now, again, we're looking at a very small scale at the minute, so we are going to be doing a lot more testing over the next couple of months on this. But with those websites, they've obviously went up with the helpful content update, and again, this is all speculation at the minute, but we believe that the best page, so best running shoes, because you're not getting outbound clicks from that page, that won't be the page that gets hit, essentially.
Makes
So
sense.
that's
That makes sense to me.
that's the thought process. But yeah, very, very early days in the testing of that.
And that falls in line with, I've seen some people talk about recovery where, on that best running shoes page, they've got Nike or Nike, I think as you're calling it.
Yeah.
I don't even know which is right.
I
Or
call it
like,
Nike.
is it Adidas or Adidas? I don't know. Reebok is Reebok, though. We can all agree on that one.
Yeah, I'll
Um,
agree.
um, so you've got all those brands. Let's say you've got 10 brands on there. You've got 10 links going out to Amazon.
Mhm.
Whereas if you were to remove all of those and you just got the one link going in, I could see then because, again, Google's not looking at the page, right? Google's not saying like, oh, this is an affiliate page. What it can do though is it can count 10 affiliate links
Mhm.
on the one page. But from what you're saying, if you kind of take out those 10, you just got the one going to that e-commerce type page, I can see then how that would get through. That makes sense to me.
Yeah. So that's more so about the actual product pages. Let's talk a little bit about intent as well, because I feel like with the helpful content update and obviously with your expertise, intent is massive as well. So I'll give you an example and I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. But I recently done a video on like a website recovery series, and one of the pages was talking about the best wood glues, right? And basically, I looked at Gear Hungry. Obviously, you remember Gear Hungry, the website that got sold for 11 million, tanked literally like a year later or something.
Was it even that long? That was just like in the
Maybe 9 months,
heart.
8 months, I want to say. But yeah, so we have a best wood glue page on that. And now we were looking at what was essentially ranking now. Now, the Gear Hungry page essentially had a little bit of intro and then it listed the top 10 wood glues, right? Whereas the page that's ranking now, it essentially identified what type of glue you needed. So whether it's PVA glue, whether it's outdoor wood glue, etc., etc. Now, the intent of that page is I'm a novice when it comes to woodwork. I first of all need to identify the type of glue that I need, and then then I'll essentially buy. So from an intent point of view, that's I would say that's pretty spot on. What's ranking there.
Mhm.
Whereas if you've just got an intro and then 10 of your most paying Amazon affiliate links, it's not really a good user experience. So what's your thoughts on that? Do you think that that's the right approach, or would you change that?
Would you like to know my most unpopular opinion?
Go on.
My most unpopular opinion in SEO is I don't believe in intent. And
Right.
and and
Okay.
here's why. Here's why. I don't have to think about the intent because it doesn't matter what I think the intent is. You search for the keyword, you see what Google thinks the intent is, and those are the pages that show up. And then that's the type of page you need to give Google. You said the same thing. You're just saying it from a different
Right.
direction,
Okay.
and you're 100% correct because initially Google might have liked that roundup type page, that has the things. That's fine, but then once they change their mind, once they shift something, then different types of pages type start to perform, and then that's the page that you have to give Google. I have yet to teach Google one thing, like where, hey Google, I know you're showing these pages, but this is the actual page you should show. That's never going to work. You have to give Google the page that it wants, and so I don't think you personally have to think about the intent. You just have to look at the pages that Google is rewarding. There's your intent. And
Yeah.
that's the kind of page that you need to give Google. And I often get this on people that are just starting their websites. And they'll say, like, I'm trying to uh, optimize this product page, but Pop says I need 2,500 words on it. How can I get 2,500 words on a product page? And the answer is you can't. And then I'm like, well, why don't you look at the SERPs and see what's there? And what's there are like, say, those 10 product roundup pages. That's the page you need to optimize. You obviously would have that product page on your site, very necessary, but the page that you're actually working on, or vice versa, or whatever it is. So it's
Yeah.
it's critically important to look at the pages that Google is rewarding, and then that's the type of page you have to build. I personally take the word intent out of that discussion, but it's the exact same thing. It's just kind of from that direction of what should we build to rank, and Google will show you that.
It's interesting you say that, because after a core algorithm update, that's the first thing I actually do. Obviously, you don't call it intent. I do call it intent, but that's besides the point. But say, for example, if you were ranking for best running shoes, it might have been a numbered list prior, and that's what was getting the featured snippet. Now it
Exactly.
might be a bullet pointed list, or it might be an answer summary. So the very first thing I do, if somebody was essentially to book a consult with me, is say, right, let's take a look at some of these keywords that you've dropped, and let's see the intent change. Or obviously you don't call it intent change, but let's see what's ranking there now, and let's try and replicate that. Is it a HTML table? Is it a numbered list? Is it a bullet pointed list?
Exactly right. That's exactly that's exactly how I look at it.
Yeah.
You have to see what's there, and I mean, it's as much as you would like that one page, and as much as that page actually might be the more correct page, if it's not something that Google's going to rank, then you're wasting your time. You have to provide Google the page that it's expecting, and that does change. Mm-hmm. That's the part that changes, or the part that you want to stay on top of, is that as new pages come into the SERPs, the goalpost will shift. And sometimes it's just adding content to your page or tweaking your content, but other times it's a lot more radical than that, and it's a whole different type of page. And that's a scenario that people really have problems letting go. Hey, this page was on page 1 for 2. That's great. Now it's not the type of page that might have the chance, and they get stuck in that purgatory of like bottom of page 2, top of page 3, and they're like, I'm so close, and they're like right there, but that page may never have the chance to get up because it's just not the type of page that Google wants anymore. That's one of the harder situations to get into when you're so kind of locked into the page that you had success with from before.
Yeah, definitely. What's so aside, away from the technical SEO talk and the content side of stuff, what's some common things that you've seen with websites that have been hit?
There are a few things that do seem to come up. The biggest one that really jumped out at first was ads on ads on ads, kind of pages. And what was annoying is a good friend of mine here in Chiang Mai who has an excellent site that is completely handwritten and is truly fantastic content. And he's got one of the largest sites in the niche outside of a major conglomerate, doing all the right things. Mm-hmm. And his site got whacked. And one thing was that the ad provider he was using said that we don't do ad density more than 30% to stay within Google's recommended guidelines for and that's the amount of ad coverage on the page, right? So you got your content and how much to be covered. Well, he's here in Thailand, and then he put on a VPN and looked at his site in the US, which is the target market. And he could see that it was 60, 70, 80% coverage on ads. It was really like ads on top of each other. It was quite gross. And he had no idea that was going on. But you can see how that would be problematic for something that's helpful content. It's not helpful when the person can't look at their phone and read it. And I saw that across a lot of sites that got hit. Their provider told them that they were at this percentage, and you could there's screenshot after screenshot of 50, 60, 70% plus type coverage on ads. And so that was a major problem. You can kind of see. Now, again, Google's not looking at the page. They're not like, oh, that looks gross. But there are probably other indicators that they're looking at. And that's how I think good sites often get wrapped up too. Let's say you weren't doing that. You might have other indicators, and that could be in how your page is performing. Like blocking time, for example, could be really bad, and that's just what they're cluing in on, because they know sites that are doing 6 ads on a screen that's covering the entire screen have bad blocking time. And so your site might have bad blocking time, even though you don't have any ads on it. And that's how you can get hit on these types of updates when you haven't really done anything wrong.
Yeah, I believe it's also called CLS, right? Content Layout Shift as well.
Yeah, and then you can see it within the first contentful paint as well. Like when the page will load, so you can actually play with it. Those kind of things all kind of indicate that you might be running a lot of JavaScript or a lot of things and ads are often built in those types of platforms.
Yeah. Now you might not want to answer this, but what was the ad platform?
Actually, I'm not. It was one of the major three. All of
Right.
them seem
Okay.
to have done it.
Right.
Um, I can't
It's
remember which
fine.
one exactly it was on.
You don't need to answer
it,
it.
a big one, a big one.
Right.
It
Okay.
was, as I recall, it was so big that they actually put out an email that said something to the effect, or a blog post like, "Actually, we didn't do that," and then like everyone's got like the
Uh,
screenshots
yeah,
of it
that's
actually
insane.
happening.
I only recently found out that, for example, like I was speaking to some guy. He runs ads on Ezoic, um, and he does, or sorry, they tie you in for like 5 6 months, or I think he said he's been on like a 2 year contract. I thought that was
Oh,
crazy. But yeah,
I don't
that's
do
news
much
to me.
on the display ad side of things,
No,
so
I
could
don't
be.
do no, but yeah. So moving to Thailand. Obviously, you moved to Thailand when I think it might have been when I first very met you, just before COVID. It was round about that time, where you were either looking to move out or you had just moved out. What was the thought process of that?
Yeah, it was November, December of 2019 is when we decided to move, and then our plan was to move in June of 2020, and then that little thing called COVID happened. I don't know if you're around for that. Um, yeah, uh, and Thailand stopped issuing visas, and
Right.
we had given up the lease on our house too. So we were kind of homeless for a few months, but just kind of waiting for the visas to open. And I have a son, and he was enrolled in an international school. And the first people they let back into the country, the first visa they did were for students, children to come back to school. We're stuck outside the country, and so we were able to kind of sneak in mid COVID on his visa, which was great. But I live in Chiang Mai, which is a small city that's all the way up in the north. You've been to Chiang Mai,
Mm.
and it's a delightful little town. Um, it's not the hustle and bustle. If you're a big city Manchester guy, you know, there's
It's a
not as
lot more
much going on.
chilled.
Yeah, but I'm not a big city guy myself. Like Bangkok is massive and sprawling, and if you need that, you can go get your fix. Or it's easy to like to fly out to like Ho Chi Minh or something like that. That's a lot of fun. I like to visit those for a weekend, but then I do kind of like the smaller city vibe. And this is up in the we're in a valley, and they're surrounded by low mountains, and it's a it's a city that sleeps.
Yeah.
That's a good thing for me. But as it turns out, there's a massive digital marketing community here.
Mm.
Um, it's really hard to throw a rock without hitting a high level SEO or digital marketer. And the community we have is, I dare somebody to show me a better community.
Mm.
Um, it's high level people and absolute beginners too, but people that are willing to share and people that are willing to help you grow. And that could be on the SEO or digital marketing side of things or the business side of things. Um, you obviously have to participate.
Yeah, definitely.
I saw some person complain about a year ago, and it cracked me up because they actually got a personal invite. They reached out like, "Hey, what's going on? Like, hey, man, you can join us here." And then like they don't participate, and then they left and like, "I really didn't get anything out of it." And I was like, "I don't remember you talking." So there is more to it than just arriving in Chiang Mai. You can't be like Chiang Mai, give me everything now or all that.
Yeah.
But if you participate, if you're active, there's a lot of good growth potential. And then the other thing too is cost of living here is so low and the quality is so high. So
Mm.
in addition to, let's say you're just starting off on a startup, you're getting things going, you can have a really long runway and live very well on, you know, 1,000 or two a month will do you could do you just fine here if you're on your own and you're living well. You're having drinks with friends on the weekends. You're going and doing things. And at the same time, you're working on your business and growing it. So it's a real good opportunity.
Yeah, that's good. And then how would you say it compares to America? Because that's where you used to live.
I was in Phoenix beforehand, and Phoenix has like 5 million people, and I'm confident there are probably as many SEOs in Phoenix as there are people total in Chiang Mai. Um, but the community isn't there at all.
Yeah.
There are groups that get together, and I've been to several, and they're really nice people, but it's not the same
Mm.
vibe at all. And the other thing too is when you're here, it seems easier for some reason to get together for lunch on Tuesday or to, to grab dinner and some drinks on a Wednesday. That seems somehow easier to set up here. And the people that come are a lot more open to doing that. So you can kind of, maybe part of it is you're structuring your day. So you're kind of working in the morning, maybe on business hours, you're working in the evening on business hours, and you really have that chunk in the middle that you can do a lot with, and
Yeah,
live a pretty good life and meet up and have some good times.
Yeah, that's the vibe that I get from everyone there, because like everyone's like, yeah, I went to dinner with Kyle, or I saw Diggity there and whatever else. It's like, is it literally just like you walk down this street and you're like, oh hey Kyle and hey Matt, and that's what it feels like from
That
the
that does
outside.
happen, yeah. that's all the Thais think I'm Jack Black, so they're all stopping and saying hi as well. I wish I was joking about that. But then, yeah, you do run. Well, like we do our weekly meetups. Like last Thursday, there's a little sports bar that we go to at 5 till question mark. But there were like 36 people. I think I counted. I kind of did a quick head count. There were like 36 people there. We're going
That's
on
crazy.
Thursday. I expect the same amount. And a lot of these things are casual, but it's the idea of get out of the house, talk to some humans. Um, and if you have SEO questions, there are people there that like talking about SEO. Or if you have
Mm.
business questions, there are people that like talking about business. And you can get a lot of good advice, opinions, and pointers for sure.
Yeah,
Just by showing up.
definitely.
Just by
Yeah,
showing up and being normal.
just by being normal.
Just be normal. That's all. That's all. That's the only
Yeah.
requirement. Actually, just be a functioning autistic. We're all functioning autistics. Just be a functioning autistic, and you're gonna do fine.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so obviously you have a wife. You've been married. How long have you been married for?
15 years next week, actually.
15 years. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
And then obviously you did have a life before you were you were an SEO. You were a lawyer. Not many people know that about you.
Yeah, I was a trial attorney. I practiced law for about 4 years in
Yeah.
Virginia. I did divorce, custody, and support and criminal defense, and I absolutely hated it. And I was happy to get out. I took a year off just to take a year off, and then I never looked back. And
Yeah.
then through some twists and turns, I started working on websites, and then got into the marketing side of websites from there. And that's really where I found my forte. That I was pretty decent at it. And I really think if you want to make a lot of money, if that's your goal, like is making money, you need to find something that you're good at that someone will pay you to do. You know,
Yeah.
and then that's the point that you can then become great at it. These aren't my words; these are Scott Galloway's words. But then, in the process of becoming great at it, it becomes your passion,
Mm.
and then that's where you really found it. So, unfortunately, in SEO, I was able to follow that path.
Yeah. I have a it's not as long winded as that, but I always say first of all you learn and then you start earning.
Yeah,
And essentially like you rip off the L and then you start making money. Um, but yeah, going back to what I was saying before. Obviously, you're married. You've got the kid. You've got your son. Met them both. Amazing people. Would you say that your life has slowed down or potentially sped up or stayed the same since having your son and since getting married and stuff?
our jobs are weird jobs, my man. I don't know that I don't know that they've slowed down. I mean, a big part of my job is traveling the world and speaking, and I can say in the last year that ramped up significantly, maybe to a detriment to my health. Actually, I've pulled out of a few events in Q1 this year just because I
Mm.
can't travel as much. I did a little too much last year, but
Yeah.
no, I mean, and, I love doing this. I like being on shows like this. I like traveling. I like talking about SEO. I like the people that I get to meet, and let's just keep it rolling as long as we can keep this party rolling.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I always love asking that question to SEOs because obviously Craig's got a son, James has had a son and a daughter, and they always seem to say, no, it's actually sped up since having a son or a daughter or whatever. And I
Yeah.
just wanted to see what your thoughts were on that.
Maybe my life has gotten a little more structure, and that again, our jobs are weird. I'm working every hour of the day. I'm working every day of the year, but you do try to carve out to make sure you're spending time, and that does provide some structure, which can be a good thing.
Yeah, definitely. So the very last question I've got for you is free failures. It could be in business, it could be in SEO, it could be
Three failure.
You don't need to give all free. If you have free, you can give free. But if you've got one, we'll go with one.
Uh, hmm. uh, I had this grand idea in pop on how to reach into other markets, and I can tell you that it flopped.
Right.
And it wasn't that it was a bad idea. I still think it's a good idea, but we didn't have the resources to make it happen. And I think one reason that pop was so successful is we did have the cash flow coming out of the agency initially to run it for free for people, and we had that going on, and we didn't have the same cash reserves in pop because pop's completely bootstrapped and it's been paying for itself, but we didn't have the same like cash reserves in order to push that forward. And so it was kind of a lesson in not every good idea you need to go forward on. You know what I mean? Like you can let some good ideas burn for a minute on the back burner until you've got the resources in order to make it really, really happen. So we'll go with that as a main failure. How about see
Yeah,
how it goes
I
from there?
like it. So where can people find you?
KyleRoof.com kind of has all of my stuff on it, or Pop is Page Optimizer Pro, and IMG Courses is IMG.courses. How about that for TLDs? We're going for the
I
branded
didn't even know you could
TLDs.
get dot courses, but that's a good one.
Neither did I until I looked it up and I was like, oh my God, we get IMG.courses. That's perfect.
I'll link everything in the description, and then there's also one event that people can get you this year. Which event would you recommend people to go?
Well, they got to go to the best event of the year. That's SEO Estonia, June 12th through 14th.
There we go.
Actually, all kidding aside, it's a good event. Um, One thing that we really you get the most out of the networking, right? That's the most important part of any conference. I know a lot of people struggle with networking. A lot of us SEOs, including myself, are very introverted, and it's often not the easiest to go out and talk to people. And so we created a lot of networking events where you can meet people, in a very comfortable way, and and then you don't have to be a big drinker. If you're a big drinker, you'll be fine too. Don't get me wrong. I did fine. But if that's not your scene, you can still participate and still have a great time and actually still get the best part of the conference. We really made it an effort to like, this is the best part when this is where we want people to really have an opportunity. And I think that's what we were able to do. So excellent speakers. Oh, you're speaking.
I am indeed.
Even better. Come see this guy. You're speaking, I'm speaking, a bunch of other great speakers, and a lot of great networking events. So, and Tallinn,
Yeah,
Estonia is a pretty cool place. And if you've never been, it's a cool little city and kind of off the beaten track. And that I like that as well. So you get to go somewhere cool, meet cool people, have a cool experience. It's a good conference. It's a good time.
yeah, definitely. One thing I'll very quickly add, and then we'll wrap up. I promise. Is last year, obviously, me and a few others from the UK SEO scene came along. We didn't know what Tallinn was like. We didn't think how great the actual conference was going to be. We went in with blind expectations. First of all, the conference was amazing. They had the makeup room that I'll always say best makeup room ever. But second of all, the actual networking side of stuff, I don't think you've done it justice there, Kyle, because one of the or two of the days actually, it was all like either we were in a restaurant or we were just stood outside bars and there was like 60, 70 different people all chatting away, talking about SEO or potentially talking about e-commerce or display ads or just digital marketing in general. So I feel like the actual main money is where the networking is. The conferences as well, obviously it's great, but the masterminding and the networking, just on another level.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I agree. I mean, I'm obviously horribly biased as I'm one of the people putting on the conference, but I've been to a lot of conferences.
Yeah.
I've spoken at a lot of conferences, and the the value is in the networking, and we really try to make that accessible to everyone, regardless of who you are and what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. So thanks for joining me. We've just hit the 1 hour mark. But yeah, thanks for coming on, Kyle.
Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. Always love talking to you.
All right. Cheers. See you guys in a bit. Stop.